It's draft season, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you're as excited as I am because as of today, the NFL Draft Combine has officially concluded and we have a plethora of brand new data to bring to your attention. Now, bear in mind, there are so many players that competed in the NFL Draft Combine, so I am not going to be able to go through each and every one of them. Rather, I'm going to give you a number of them that have stuck out to me the most, and I'm going to try to highlight some of the more popular names in the NFL Combine. But before we get to that, guys, this is a brand spanking new football channel, so if you want fresh new NFL takes and content and XFL and NCAA takes and content delivered straight to your device, please take a moment to subscribe and turn on my notifications. Now, the first player that popped out to me was a wide receiver from LSU. He was one of Joe Burrow's favorite targets this past season because he completed a stat line of 1,540 receiving yards to go with 111 receptions and 18 touchdowns, and that is Justin Jefferson. He was extremely productive this season and he won a national championship with the LSU Tigers, but there was a huge concern with him, and it was his long speed. But fortunately for Justin Jefferson, he dominated the 40-yard dash as he was able to post a time of 4.43. In addition to showing off better than expected results in the 40-yard dash, Justin Jefferson also performed as well as any receiver could during the on-field drills. Now, another player that impressed me was Denzel Mims out of Baylor, and he continues to build momentum throughout the entire pre-draft process because he had a very strong week at the Senior Bowl, but he's also very fortunate because of the physical gifts that he possesses. He's 6'3" and 207 pounds, but he also ran a 4.38 40-yard dash, had a 38.5 vertical jump, and a 10'11" broad jump, while running a position best time of 6.66 in the 3-cone drill. He absolutely dominated the combine, which brings me to our next prospect, and this is a wide receiver out of USC who's known to be an excellent route runner, and that's Michael Pittman. Now, you guys have to understand that this year's NFL draft is notorious for one thing and one thing only, and that is wide receivers. Mel Kiper thinks there's going to be as much as 7 wide receivers taken in this draft alone, and Michael Pittman might be one of the ones because he's ascending up draft boards after a great combine that saw a 4.14 20-yard shuttle run, a 6.96 3-cone drill, and also a 4.52 40-yard dash, definitely looking like one of the 4 best wideouts in the NFL draft. Now, another wide receiver, I know this is getting repetitive, this is not only for wide receivers and this is not only for positive reviews, we have some negative ones as well, but I have to talk about Jalen Reagor out of Texas Christian University. He was absolutely explosive in the vertical and broad jump with a 42-inch vertical jump and a 11.6 broad jump. Reagor showed blazing speed on tape. Now, the one thing that really scares us about Reagor is he was expected to have this crazy fast 40-yard dash, but unfortunately for Reagor, he also posted a slower than expected 40, a 4.47, and he is still really fast, and obviously you got to take into account what he could do on the field over what he could do in the combine, but he really failed to capitalize on an opportunity that could really give us empirical data of how fast he is. Like, this could have set him up over the top. He could have finished as one of the top 3 wide receivers. Now, as a result of this 40-yard dash, in addition to struggles with the agility drills, because he posted a 7.31 in the 3-cone drill and was even slower than 9 of the 13 tight ends at the combine, there's going to be some question marks surrounding Jalen Reagor. So there's some negativity to go with, some good with Jalen. Maybe what matters is what really shows on field. I don't know, but that's one of the more negative wide receivers that we saw at the combine. Now, another player that I want to talk about is defensive end out of Iowa, AJ Epineza, and no one was expecting this guy to completely dominate the combine because his game is based more on technique instead of speed or agility. But dude, no one expected him to do this badly. Like, his 40-yard dash was a 5.04, which is okay for an offensive tackle. Then he followed that up in on-field drills. To follow that up in his on-field drills, he looked very rigid and a player that really didn't move very well, especially considering that this is a guy that needs to turn around a corner and burst off of the edge to get around offensive tackles. After that performance, commentators began to think that he is not going to make it as a full-time edge rusher. He might be a 3-4 defensive end lined up at the 5 technique. This is as bad as it could get for a guy that thought he was going to come off of the edge. Maybe he's going to transition to a defensive tackle. I don't know. But another player that I really want to talk about is yet another wide receiver. I know you guys are getting sick of these wide receivers, man, but Laviska Shenault Jr. out of Colorado. And again, this is more negative. He was supposed to dominate this event, but bear in mind, he was hurt a little bit and he's still a little unrefined, but he showcases tremendous athletic potential. Things started poorly for him and unfortunately got even worse. It began with him measuring only at 6'1", which sucks because he was listed as 6'2" on his school's website. And then the very next day, Shenault ran the 40-yard dash with a 4.58. And later on, he revealed that he was nursing a injury that just makes things worse. I know that it was just initially an excuse for why he wasn't able to dominate the combine, but that doesn't exactly help your draft stock. Look at what's happening to Tua Tagovailoa as a result of his hip injury, and he also spent a majority of his final year in college nursing various injuries, so it looks really bad for Shenault. It looks like he might get drafted in the second day of the draft and maybe the second or third round as opposed to the first round, but there's plenty of good wide receivers in this draft, so he shouldn't really beat himself up. It's a very, very deep wide receiver draft. Now, let me get to my absolute favorite wide receiver from the combine. This is the guy at the wide receiver position that has probably done himself the most favors, and that is Chase Claypool out of Notre Dame. Now, to give you an idea of how good Chase Claypool is, look, you need to understand that in Notre Dame's passing offense, he didn't really get the opportunity to show off how good he was. He wasn't able to show off what we know as elite athleticism. Chase was able to finish in the top 10 among his peers in the 40-yard dash, the bench press, as well as the broad and vertical jumps, despite coming in at 6'4" and weighing nearly 240 pounds. Now, you have to understand, this puts him in combine warrior territory, honestly, because he followed that up with a great gauntlet drill, and there were rumors that teams might want to move Claypool to the tight end position, but this performance should put those rumors to bed. Now, to give you an idea of how good he was at the combine, he is bigger than Cameron Wake, faster than Odell Beckham Jr., stronger than Jared Allen, and jumps higher than Julio Jones. This is absolutely insane. Chase Claypool definitely did himself a huge favor at the NFL Draft Combine. Now, the next player that I just have to bring up is a defensive tackle out of Nebraska whose name is Khalil Davis. Now, you have to understand, coming into the combine, this is a guy that was supposed to be drafted within the 4th round to like maybe the 7th round, maybe even go undrafted, because he's a great defensive tackle prospect, but he has very good upside. He only competed in 2 testing events, but he should be really happy with his performance because he finished the 40-yard dash in 4.75 seconds, which is 6th best amongst all defensive linemen, including defensive ends, and he was number 1 amongst defensive players over 270 pounds. He then finished 2nd amongst defensive linemen in the bench press as well, while looking fairly quick and nimble in most of the on-field drills. It wouldn't be out of the question now to see Davis become a second-day pick for a team looking for a disruptive 3 technique or even a rotational piece, but the important thing is Khalil Davis's draft stock is going to shoot up boards as a result. Now, the final 3 players I want to talk about are all quarterbacks, and let's start with Jake Fromm. Man, it was a very, very tough combine for Jake Fromm because the Georgia Bulldogs quarterback, he was expected to completely dominate the combine with his performance, but because his game is mainly predicated upon great precision passing that relies on his accuracy and anti-action, he's pretty much a poor man's Daniel Jones who could dink and dunk, but it was still fairly disturbing to see Jake Fromm play after seeing players like Jordan Love, Justin Herbert, and Jacob Eason, who are 3 players that have the ability to throw deep bombs over the field during drills. Now, combine that with a 5-second 40-yard dash, which is the slowest amongst all quarterbacks, and it appears as though Fromm is destined to be picked on the last day of the draft. But hey, Tom Brady was picked on the last day of the draft after a terrible combine, so maybe he has a chance. Another player that I want to give an honorable mention to, he didn't really compete in the combine, but he provided a huge injury update for himself, and that's Tua Tagovailoa. Now, you have to understand, this guy is one of the most polarizing draft prospects we've ever seen. You could get a player that might drop down in the NFL draft as a result of that hip, but for the most part, when scouts looked at his hip, it seemed like it was healing completely well. The true test of Tua's draft stock is going to be within the next 3 months, where he needs to see whether cartilage is going to form in that hip, and if it doesn't, then he's going to be just as good as he was before. But bear in mind, Tua's still a guy with a lightning quick release, great scrambling ability, great arm, great accuracy, and any team that's willing to take a risk for him, if he does fulfill his potential, you have a great generational prospect that could completely shift the culture of your entire team. But this is a player that could get drafted as high as number 2 overall, or might slip to the end of the draft if the injury concerns are realized. But for the most part, during the NFL Draft Combine, Tua made himself look good, and that's a positive thing for Tua. And the final player that I actually want to talk about, which is ironic because he used to be Tua's teammate, is Jalen Hurts. And I can't help but feel like Jalen Hurts is destined for a phenomenal NFL career. He's a guy with great character, he has a great football IQ, and the way he plays football is currently what's trending in the NFL. He has the leadership that a team would value, and is a dual threat quarterback. He ran the fastest 40-yard at the combine out of all quarterbacks at a 4.54. Now, of course, there are limitations to evaluating how well you could do in the combine, but Hurts really did his thing with the on-field drills, throwing with great footwork and phenomenal zip with his arm. Now, is there any prospect that I potentially missed out on? Please let me know in the comment section down below. I'm your boy Microphone, and I'll catch you in the next upload.